What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I've got another extremely important AMC update to bring all of you this evening. So what we're going to be covering this video is one, a $370 million bet that has been placed on AMC by multiple institutions over the last quarter. Now, this is going to be very important because when we look and see at the amount of money that institutions have put into AMC shares over the last quarter versus the amount of shares that they have actually sold, the discrepancy between these two numbers is massive, and it's extremely bullish for the share price of AMC going forward. Now, I also have something that I need to clarify with you guys. It isn't something that I have said, but it is something that I have seen being floated around the internet a couple of times, and it has to do with Fintel and how they are marking a couple of the options positions. I briefly covered this in one of my previous AMC videos, but I want you guys to be able to fully understand what these numbers exactly mean and why logically these numbers do not make sense. Now, we also have an interesting update on this Facebook AMC group situation and a lawsuit against an investment firm that proves that there is naked short selling going on in the market. So we have a lot to cover in this video, so make sure you guys stick around until the end. Now, before we get into all of that information, if you guys would like to earn 2 free stocks with Webull valued up to $1,850, make sure you check out that link down below in my description. Now, at the current time that I'm recording this video, AMC is down about 3.5% on the day. This is not what we wanted to see today, and we are in a pretty significant downtrend throughout the day. We did see a couple of bounces where AMC did go pretty deep into the green, but we are not seeing the amount of volume that we need in order to push AMC into those big green territory numbers that we have previously seen over the past week. Now, when we come over to MarketBeat, this is going to track the aggregate amount of institutional buys versus institutional sells over the last quarter. And we can see here that the amount bought by institutions over the last quarter was about $370 million versus $13 million sold. This is a giant discrepancy. And to see that institutions have bought this amount of shares, this $370 million amount, versus only selling $13 million shows me that institutions are incredibly bullish on AMC going into the near future. Now, something to keep in mind when looking at this little chart right here is that these numbers that we are seeing show up as being Q2 of 2021, and that's not entirely accurate. All of these different institutional buys that we are receiving information on now, their effective dates were as of March 31st, 2021. So all of these purchases were made in the first quarter of 2021, but are being reported in Q2 of 2021. So when we come over to Fintel, let's take a look at some of the more recent institutional purchases. We can see Weiss Strategic Interval Fund actually just opened a short position on AMC. Now, not just opened a short position. This was back in the first quarter, but we can see that they have about 82,622 shares sold short and an average share price of about $10.21. Now, here's what I was talking about earlier, something that I want to clear up. So we can see here that Jane Street Group has a put and a call. Their call position is about double the amount of their put position. And when we see here, it has the share amount in this column, and it's showing 4.69 million shares, and the call position is 8.5 million shares. Now, I've seen a lot of people on a couple of these different internet forums saying that Jane Street, or when we come down to Susquehanna too, that's going to be a massive options position, that these are the amount of options contracts that are actually being held by these institutions, and that's not entirely the case. When we look at the actual value of this position, AMC was trading at a little bit over $10 when the effective date of all of these purchases were coming in. So it makes sense that the actual amount would be about $47 million here, $48 million. But if Jane Street actually had these amount of contracts, that would be 469 million shares that they would be controlling through their options position. That is above the entire outstanding shares of AMC. And here, that would be about 850 million shares that they would be essentially controlling with their options position. And that would not make any sense. What is much more likely, and what I see is happening here, is that Jane Street has 46,000 put contracts, and for their call position, they have 85,000 call contracts. Now, what I really saw was this Susquehanna position. People were really blowing this out of proportion. That would be, this would essentially mean that their put position on AMC would essentially be controlling 1 billion shares, and that is not the case. It is much more likely, again, that they just have a put position of 100,000 contracts. That is still an incredibly high amount of contracts, but nowhere near as high as people were making it seem. Now, let's briefly talk about this Facebook group situation with AMC. So as a lot of you guys know, there was a Facebook group which a lot of AMC investors were in, and it was randomly deleted. Now, this Reddit post right here, shout out to this individual for putting this information up. It's essentially saying that Mark Zuckerberg's sister has a beneficial interest in the Motley Fool. So when we click on this actual picture, Randy Zuckerberg, a former director of market development and spokeswoman for Facebook and sister to its CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, is a member of the Motley Fool's board of directors. Sean Williams owns shares of Facebook. The Motley Fool owns shares of and recommends Facebook. The Motley Fool recommends Dexcom, Vertex Pharmaceuticals. The Motley Fool has a disclosure policy. Now, what's interesting about this is that Citadel Securities also has a beneficial interest in the Motley Fool. We've seen the Motley Fool come out time and time again and put out these hit piece articles on AMC. Basically, they're aiming to spread FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt onto the market. We've seen them come out and essentially say that bankruptcy is still on the table for AMC, which we all know is not the case. So when we're looking at this information at face value, it looks like there's all of these different partnerships and cooperation agreements going on, and it is very possible that the powers that be, Citadel, and their connections to the executives at Facebook had the AMC group on Facebook shut down. It's also entirely possible with all of the algorithms that Facebook has running on its platform that they found something within this AMC group. Maybe somebody was saying some things that ended up getting this actual Facebook group banned. Anything is possible in these situations, and I want to give you guys both sides of the picture. Now, something that is also incredibly important that kind of ties into my previous AMC video right here. So when we look at this Reddit post, SEC is suing BTIG LLC for illegal naked short selling. So we actually have a court document right here, which let's see what this actually says. This action concerns the misconduct of registered broker-dealer BTIG, which repeatedly violated the order marking and locate requirements of rules 200G and 203B1 of regulation, this one right here, under the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. Regulation SHO regulates the short selling of securities and was designed in part to restrict naked short selling and to reduce failures to deliver. Naked short selling is the unlawful practice of short selling shares that have not been borrowed or located. If sellers are engaged in naked short selling, then the volume of stock sold may be larger than the We keep going in this actual court document, but we actually have an article that goes into this in a little bit greater detail and is easier to understand. So SEC charges BTIG with short selling violations, and they go over exactly what they did. According to the SEC's complaint, from December 2016 through July 2017, BTIG marked more than 90 sale orders from a hedge fund customer as long and short exempt. So we can see when the orders should have been marked as short. According to the complaint, as a registered broker-dealer, BTIG had independent gatekeeper responsibilities to ensure that the trades it executed were correctly marked. Now, this sounds vaguely similar to what we discussed in my last video, when we were talking about the execution of a lot of these orders, when the market makers are actually deciding where to actually execute these different orders that are coming through. The SEC alleges that BTIG ignored facts indicating that the hedge fund's representations that it owed the securities it was selling and that it would deliver them by the settlement date were false. Despite many red flags, the SEC said that BTIG allegedly continued to mark the hedge fund's orders as long and short exempt without making an effort to determine whether those markings were correct. In addition, the SEC alleges that because BTIG failed to borrow or locate the shares before doing the transactions, which were in reality short sales, the firm violated another short selling rule. So essentially what we can get from this, we got to think about the bigger picture. The new SEC chairman, Gary Gensler, has come out and said that he is going to be very hard on a lot of these different violations, especially the market manipulation violations violations that are hurting the competitiveness of the market. This is a very good sign to see that we are seeing these different allegations and these SEC lawsuits being brought against these different institutions. The only problem is that this happened a long time ago. So it is entirely possible that the SEC is going to drag their feet until they have enough evidence to actually catch these different institutions in their market manipulation tactics and their illegal activities. But either way, I do see this as a step in the right direction, and hopefully we are going to see more of these lawsuits and regulations come out against these institutions who have been manipulating the market through these naked short positions and mismarking all of these orders. So that is going to conclude this update on AMC. If you guys enjoyed the information and analysis that I provided for you in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it really helps me out a whole lot in getting this information out to as many people as possible and getting more people interested in this movement. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video, so you get to stay up to date on all of your favorite stocks, learn about a couple of new ones, and see exactly which options I am trading and which strategies I am using to trade them. So I hope you guys are having a great Friday, and I'll see you guys in the next video.